Simon, Grant, welcome.
Welcome.
Founders of RecConnect. How's it
Indeed.
going?
Go for it.
Yeah. Very good.
So your
Someone
perspective.
answer.
Obviously
very
Grant's
good. Bar
perspective.
going to the wrong office, another wave, imposters.
Can't believe that.
No, I know. She was really shocked as well. But yeah, apart from that, it's been good. A lot of songs.
That's the main thing for me, actually. They didn't even know. They didn't even say, "Oh, yeah, that's
That's ignorance. That is.
They've already pre-printed out some stuff because they know exactly who we are.
Most
They don't
people
even
go
know.
there. They could have said
the
Yeah.
one, the one and only Wave marketing agency.
Yeah, we're really sorry we're not them. But no, they're like, no, I haven't got a clue who you are.
But apart from that blunder, I'm good. Can't speak for Simon, but I'm sure he's.
it's good. Look, we're recording this on, what is it, the 3rd of July? So let's see.
Sunny July.
Retrospectively, when people are watching this after the 4th of July, we'll see where we are, shall we? So we're all happy today.
Everything could change, couldn't it? Like,
could.
It doesn't matter how we are today. It's how it's going to be
We could
2
have
days'
sunnier
time.
or sadder disposition. Let's see. Right now, though, we're good. Loads on, as always. Behest by the recruitment industry, as we are.
Yeah.
Roller coaster that it is, and other such phrases to describe our industry. But yeah, all in all, we're cool. Got lots of stuff on the go. Lots of stuff planned already for next year and even 2026, which is quite unusual. We're normally what's happening tomorrow, but now we're actually a couple of years ahead.
Yeah,
which is good.
That is very well organised. So what are you doing then? Let's have a little RecConnect plug. What is it? Our people going to, most people watching, hopefully, staffing businesses. So should in theory be interested in it. What is it?
It is what people see us as may depend on what they knew us as. So we were members only, recruitment leader network that set up in 2018 as an events experiential business. Not the greatest position to be a year before COVID, but nonetheless, like everybody else, agile,
some good events
adaptive.
though. I remember coming to a couple of
early days,
and
early day events, and then obviously went online and did all of that stuff. And after COVID, we sort of had a little sit down and worked out what it is we actually really wanted to do. And the core of that kept coming back to events, but we realised that the MO part of it was probably a little bit too exclusive, although it was its USP at one point. COVID had introduced a whole new world of people to us, and we realised that actually people wanted more access, more accessibility to what we did. So we rebranded as RecConnect. So the premise of it's still the same. The underpinning aspect of what we're trying to do, which is connections and conversations, bringing people together through events primarily, is what we do. So we're a recruitment leader network, first and foremost, run by events. Got a network, community, people bring together, and content led too. So we help bridge gap between recruiters and suppliers. Suppliers, have got an awful lot to offer. So they're part of what we do hugely now. But the recruitment leader network is demographically anybody that owns a recruitment agency. That's C-suite, MD, FD, CEO, CMO, and everywhere in between.
And why might that what if you're a recruitment business owner? And maybe not just for you guys, but why is it worthwhile them being kind of connected into one of these networks? What's the point of it?
Yeah, but look, there's nothing new about Recruitment Leader Network. There are others, right? We're not standalone with that. But I think what COVID did was accentuate the need for greater collaboration, and we have had in the industry over years and years and years, decades of silos, which we'll probably come back onto later on, with recruiters working to their own agenda, not really looking outside their own four walls, or have multiple walls now with remote working, of course. But and COVID, I think, just highlighted the need for people to get together more. It can be a lonely place, particularly if you're working in a solopreneur, if you can use that expression, or even a smaller micro business. It can be a really lonely place. And we speak with bigger organisations as well. We've got a few hundred people, maybe 1,000 people in there, and their divisional leaders are feeling lonely. Where do they go? So it became apparent, particularly in times where we're all working remotely, and then of course that is now what we're really doing, that people just feel a little bit lost sometimes. And however good their business is, however good they feel they are at leading teams, or their mindset is where they want it to be, often actually it's a bit misplaced, and they need something else, whatever that might be. And everybody's got a different subjective. But so networks like ours help.
And I think that makes sense. And I think we all want to be part of a community or a group or something. We want to feel a sense of belonging. Outside of work, inside of work, there's something there, isn't there?
Yeah, great word, belonging.
Which is exactly the way I see it. Because when we were under our old brand, members only. It was more kind of like exclusive. It was a certain level of agency that have a certain level of desire to want to be part of something a bit more exclusive. With what we're doing now, it's from top to bottom, it's inclusive. It's open to everyone. So no one should ever feel like they can't join or be part of what we're doing, even if you are part-time recruitment agency or you're working on your own, or whatever, working at your mum's bedroom, whatever it may be. There's something that everyone can get out of what we do, which is why we rebranded in the way we did, to make it as accessible as possible. Because there's a lot of networks out there that are you have to pay to be part of it. You can do stuff from free in our network and get a lot out of it. And everyone should feel welcome and feel part of what we want to be, the biggest recruitment community in the UK.
Yeah. And how, recruitment, I think, is a funny old industry, because it's very secretive, isn't it? There's this kind of network of keep everything on, don't let anyone know anything you're working on, in case someone goes and nicks your dinner or whatever. So how do you address that sort of challenge? Is it still a challenge? Is there's still a mentality of that when you get people together? And if there is, how do you kind of deal with it?
No, that was the 90s, and I was part of that. I loved it, if I'm honest. Like that whole skullduggery, and licking people's
cloak and
CVs out of
dagger,
drawers. And robbing their clients if they went away on a holiday was brilliant. It's all part of it. But if you think about what that was like 20 odd years ago, and the industry sectors that were around then, and how many there are now. We've got 32 different sectors represented in our network, and there's 32 different sectors. I find that staggering, but there's not. There's way more than that even. But in the early 90s, there weren't that many sectors. Some of the jobs that we now got never even existed. So, and that's only going to multiply. So by default, the people have now spread across different sectors, whereas before you'd look at engineering, IT, industrial, manufacturing, those types of sectors,
maybe
where
half a dozen or something like that.
But the makeup of the individuals in the sector at that point or across recruitment were fundamentally the same. They were brash, they were out really stereotyping, out for themselves, and of course you wouldn't divulge, or at least you felt you couldn't divulge, which client you're working on, because someone's going to nick it. You give away a lead. Candidate sharing wasn't quite as easy then, of course, because you had to fax over someone if you really wanted to nick it. But the industry, in answer to your question, is completely changed. And the thing is that where we all got together online over that COVID period, I don't want to keep referencing COVID because it was a tipping point before that. But it was just highlighted at the point where we all got online, and somebody that you would have met in the pub 10 years ago and you wouldn't have told your life story to, or who you work with, all of a sudden you kind of felt like you were.
Yeah.
And then when you came back out again, we all got regrouped. Then all of a sudden you had a load of new mates that would have been your foes before. And now they're allies, So no, it isn't like it was. I dare say it is in many organisations, and IT would probably be one where they've still got legacy.
You're still going to have some of that,
but we don't see it at all in the events that we run. There is none of that at all.
Yeah. I think people have just seen the benefit of letting their guard down, but also in the community we've got of just good people that. And there's, that opens up lots of new opportunity for people. So I think that our network certainly have benefited from letting their sort of guard down with regards to that sort of mentality, which is, like I said, is a legacy.
And I guess presumably, again, coming back to that kind of network and the belonging, you then almost, if you let your guard down, so to speak, with someone that's in your kind of group, then that's something that's more, well, they're in our kind of group, and there is that level of, hopefully, a level of mutual respect around that sort of thing to an extent.
Yeah, well, look, what's the word? The most common word with that is authenticity, isn't it? Everyone talk about authenticity, transparency. If you talk about marketing, if you talk about social media, you talk about how people buy stuff off you nowadays. It's not in your face. It's all about being authentic.
Yeah.
And that's really where we're at. So if there is somebody that's in there not being that, it's really obvious to spot. Whereas they're conspicuous now, whereas they might not have been quite so a number of years ago. So yeah, I think people are much more conscientious when they're around people to actually just kind of open up a bit, which is great, and it's great for so many different reasons. Yeah,
good. I know one of the things I know we're going to talk about is around development, and specifically around leaders of recruitment businesses. it is a lonely old place at times. And a lot of recruitment businesses that set up normally follow a kind of, they worked at a recruitment agency and kind of cut their teeth doing, wherever they are, and then thought, I'll do this myself. Then suddenly they're running a business and the rest of running a business comes into play, from finance to HR to recruiting your own people, managing people, all of that kind of business, everything else that you hadn't experienced before, you become something that you've now got to sort out with. Is that's something that you guys can help with in terms of bringing people together, some peer-to-peer learning, something like that? Is that an area that's big for you guys?
It's kind of what is as has always been a focus for us, is us being the facilitators, giving people the tools and the network of people to speak to support them in what they're doing. So, because I've got I've always said to Simon, I've got a lot of respect for anyone that goes out and starts a business on their own, because of all the different things that you need to be able to do. But I think that it's the accessibility that I think we can provide. So it kind of like, if anyone wants anything specific, or they're struggling with a particular part of their business, there will be someone in our network that can help them as a member, or there will be a supplier that we can refer them to get the answers that they want. So I think that being in the network just gives people that accessibility to get the answers they want, rather than scratching their heads, making mistakes, going doing things that they didn't know that they shouldn't be doing. It kind of eliminates a lot of that, because they can just ask questions about how did you do this, how did you do that, and we see it all the time. And the collaboration part, which is a word we use a lot, is a big sort of focal point for our network.
Do you find it difficult to kind of, if you're talking to people that are running businesses, do they have to already decide that there's a need, or do you have to try and identify a need for them? Because some people will be, no, I haven't got time for any of that. I'm too busy running my own business, potentially making the same mistakes over and over again,
Exactly
running into the wall and then getting up and running into it again. But, that's what they're kind of busy doing. Or do they kind of come to you and go, I keep running into this wall and I'm getting a headache. Can you help me?
Yeah, kind of. It's a combination. Look, this all starts with, it's the unsustainability with the level of attrition that comes through recruitment as a whole, right? So the 40,000 recruitment agencies that there were 20 years ago, that there allegedly still are, is unsustainable in a world that's shrinking the way that it is, right? So I'm talking about UK there, by the way, with that figure. So there has to be a change, and it can't be sustainable for somebody to whimsically or specifically set up another business on their own because they're bored, tired, can't keep up with, become disenchanted with their leaders, right? And that's the reason why people do it. It's not because they want to go and tackle all the aggro that comes with the back office stuff that you alluded to earlier, because that wouldn't be the reason why anyone set up a business. They do it because they're bored of outgrown, that's probably the best phrase, the leaders that are above them, and go, I can do this better than you. That's fundamentally it.
That's what these guys all say to me every week.
I don't blame them. But I've been saying it for years, haven't I?
One day I'll listen.
One day you listen, exactly. But that for me is the crux of it. And so therefore it's going to come on to a question, so what can leaders do about that? Like how can they attract the best people but keep them? In some instances it doesn't matter what you're going to do, you're going to lose the best staff, but that's going to happen in any walk of life, right? But the closer you can get to retention, has got to be the thing, right? So back to your question of those people that might go, right, I've had enough and go out and set up on my own. If they were part of our network previously, or any network that saw what collaboration could look like, but their leaders weren't really part of it, then yes, they would absolutely join that. And I think that's the reason why most would. Equally, they might have started on a journey, realised actually this isn't quite as easy as I thought it was going to be. I do need a little bit of peer collaboration and help with that. And of course you can find out anywhere online, can't you? But you can't really, because you have to speak to people face to face, and that's where communities are beneficial.
Yeah.
But it isn't for everyone either. I mean, that's, there
I
are
was
some
going to
people.
ask, like, shouldn't, based on what you're saying, sorry to interrupt,
That's
like,
right.
everyone should be part of a network then, but then you just said it's not, some
Yeah,
people
'cause
maybe not. Then.
Yeah, because there are some people that would just never accept that they need or would be open to going to get, just to see, just to even have a look at what the opportunity is potentially there, what they can get out of it. Some people just, like you said, just tell themselves they don't have the time to do it, but then they just don't know what what it is they're going to get out of it. Some people already decided that before they've even come knocking at your door. Absolutely fine. What we want are people that are open to help support change, open to new collaborations, new way of thinking. And we've had people in our network that have come in, weren't sure if they wanted to get much, what they were going to get out of it, and they've been in our network for 5-6 years.
Also, though, there are also people who, and I absolutely fair play to those, that set up, they've got a 10-year plan. In 10 years, I'm going to sack this off. I'm going to go do something else, be a gardener, right?
Yeah.
And they're going to bill 150, 200 grand a year, whatever it might be, pay off their mortgage, to have to work, right? That and I've got 2 friends that have done that, right? And fair play if that's what you want to do, right? So would a network or a community that are helping them build a business, and is that kind of going to be relevant for them? It's probably not, because they're laser focused. Every day they get up, they've probably got a meticulous plan, which is making X number of calls, that produces that, the result of that is that, and then I get some cash and I do that. And they just go over and over, and that's in that robotic style. Definitely not my kind of thing. But if it's somebody else's and it's going to allow them to go and do what they want at the end of it, then happy days.
There's so many different sort of, we sort of lump all recruitment businesses into sort of one, don't we? You said it like 40,000, but actually every business is slightly different, aren't they? Some are a bit more, maybe sales focused. Some are a little bit more methodical. Some are like desperate for growth. Others, like you said, in their mum's bedroom, kind of doing what they're doing.
Just trying to get off the ground. But some people just, they just earn a living doing it, as a lifestyle thing. That's absolutely fine. But it's just everyone has a different approach to what they want to do. Like, I spoke to 2 guys at the an event we were at the other day, and they're desperate for help on growing their business from 30 onwards. And we're asking me if, is there people that can help them with that? Absolutely. But then there's people that are like, we've got really poor brand exposure. What can we do? So, and that's like the total opposite end, because some people just don't have an identity as well.
Is there a theme? Like when people come to you, what are they that they're looking? There's a reoccurring theme in terms of what they want every time. And you're like, heard this before.
It does vary, doesn't it? Quite a bit.
Yeah, the common pattern though, and this has got nothing to do with our network or anybody else's network. This is just a common pattern of recruiters per se, but obviously what we have eyes and ears on are people that have got to a point where they might have gone beyond what they thought their exit was going to be. Often that exit though is unrealistic. So taking that to one side, gone, right, we can't go. It's like we're treading in treacle. Right?
Yeah.
We just can't get anywhere fast. We're doing some really good stuff. We can't really get to where we want to get to. There must be something inherently not wrong with the business per se, but must be something we're not seeing. And perhaps, and I use the expression working on your business, not in it. Right. And that's the core root of that. Maybe I do need to step out of that. Maybe we as a leadership team need to go and do something else and explore what other people are doing that we can't see inside these 4 walls. And that's where that's just collaborations in general, but having a mindset to go and want to do that. And I think it's a changing thing. So if you look at the guys coming into recruitment now versus the guys that have been in it for a while, I think you'll find that they're coming in with collaboration as one of the first things. They're building a business built on that. Yeah. Not necessarily trying to change something that's been legacy over a period of time.
And that whole working on the business, and not in the business, is part of that development for the leaders, right? So that they get that opportunity to step out of the business, come to one of your events, be out of, the kind of the area where you're getting emails and phone calls about that interview or this candidate or whatever it is. And you have that opportunity to be out of it for a while, talk to someone else that says, I'm treading in treacle as well, or was, and we did this and this. And then someone's gone, oh yeah, and they don't even realize that that's opened up a whole different thought path for them to go. So that's the development part, right? Without even realizing it.
Then they've already got the value out of go into whatever it would be, us or any other network. And I think that it just takes one thing for you to take away from that, for it to add value to you going back to the office. Because, like I said, there's a lot of people that just are going around in circles and that don't really know how to get out of it. But like I said, there's so many different ways people do things, and we're surprised at how much how different agencies operate the same, do the same thing, but in 101 different ways.
Yeah,
and that's the beauty of just listening to other people and being open to that.
We've seen that from the process and the way that they use our tech. Everyone seems to use it slightly differently. And even now, we keep getting more people going, well, this is the approach we take. And you're like, okay, that's an interesting way of doing it. It's not right or wrong. They just do it a different way.
Yeah, exactly. And I think there's and another word we hear and use a lot is people's lack of ability to delegate as well. But they're like taking everything on and won't delegate. Leaders need to also just give a little bit of leash, a bit of leash for people. Give people different jobs, because we see it a lot. They're trying to do too much because they feel like they need to be in control.
Yeah.
To keep the ship afloat, if you like.
Almost from the kind of going back to maybe when they were, running a desk, or they were, the top biller or whatever it is. They carry that responsibility into a new, into that new role, and they feel like they have to do that.
Sometimes it tips into martyrism, right? So you see people use the word resilience like a badge of honor, right? And most of those people, say most, it's stereotyping, but you could look at 10 people, and a significant number of those, you've been part of an industry that has taught you to be that way, right? And I'm not saying there's anything necessarily wrong with that, but that is not a good leadership skill when you are battling against the tide constantly. You're not looking to delegate stuff. You maybe aren't trying to improve your team, and the development that it's kind of my way or the highway. Again, stereotyping to an extent, but is accentuating a point, which is the industry as a whole needs to be flexible, and it needs to understand that this market is moving at a rapid rate, quicker than ever. And tech is obviously pushing that through, but don't underestimate what's happening underneath this, which many people don't. We're lucky to go and work with Gen Z, right?
I was about to mention that,
universities who we're helping get into recruitment jobs, or if we don't help them, they're still coming through at that age. That their mindset is mental compared to how we're like completely opposite.
Yeah.
It's opposed to what we've been used to over the years, and they are going to smash this industry. And when it comes back to the sales stuff and people doing things differently, their whole mentality is be brilliant brand, be authentic, lead from the front, always learning, constantly developing. And they will be developing the stuff underneath it that will obliterate the businesses that have got no time for development. I just want to keep churning and churning. Yeah. And it won't be that long before that happens either.
So I want to you mentioned this earlier, I want to kind of pick up on this around this change that's happening, there's 40,000 recruitment companies, which is a number we all band around, don't we? And, me included. But that's, are you seeing, are you seeing real change in terms of a recruitment agency of today versus a recruitment agency that's 15 years old? And if you are, what are those changes, and what can a 15-year-old business do to if the changes are positive? There's loads of questions in that.
Yeah, okay. So the biggest
I'm saying, what is happening? What is going on with the recruitment industry?
Yeah, no, okay. So let's try and pick out the difference between that and the 15 years. Efficiency is one of them, and I've touched on it earlier, the willingness to learn and develop, looking at things from a completely objective standpoint. They come with, a lot of them come with no silo. They don't have that. They don't have that, the four walls of what I'm used to. And so they're open, expansive, open for collaboration, open for communication, and their branding and the way they approach people is bang on. And I put a poll out on LinkedIn the other day of what would happen if LinkedIn we woke up tomorrow, breaking news, LinkedIn's crashed, right? Yeah. And most of the responses were along the lines of, we'd be fucked, right? Yeah. Or, we'd have to start using our CRM more, right? Now, both of those things, to me, have been spoken about by a someone who's been in the business 15, you would not hear somebody who's been in the industry for a year trying to, just bringing through new. No one would say that. Half of them aren't even on LinkedIn for starters. So the point that where they're looking and fishing for their talent are completely opposite to that.
Yeah.
If they're using CRMs, they're using it in a really smart way. I don't know enough about the usage of all CRMs. Obviously, there's different aspects and facets to that. Some don't even have that. Some of them are using completely different tools. They're using WhatsApp, right? And that's their method of communication as though it's a CRM.
Yeah.
And so that they're just breaking through what has been the traditions to make themselves more agile, skinnier versions of a bigger organisation. Don't have the overheads of some of the fixed costs that a lot of businesses do. Okay, so some of those are dwindling in many instances, but it's the innovation and their first thought of how can we do this better. That's and building genuine partnerships. It still staggers me today that there are businesses who are completely 100% contingent. I know the value and the purpose of that, but that staggers me. Still staggers me today how people don't go in and build proper partnerships with their clients. We will be an extension of your.
So what does that kind of look like? Like what is a proper partnership? Because there's what people say in terms of all our clients. We build partnerships with them. Yeah. And, it's basically, that's not true.
Yeah.
What would you say is a proper partnership? Like, in that example, how would you define that for someone?
Can they recruit without you, right? That's the top end of it.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, let's just use who can we use as a good example? Nike, just because I'm wearing Nike trainers. If you were a part of the extension of their partner, that you are a partner of Nike and they couldn't recruit without you and your team, that's a partnership. And by that, you're probably going into their offices. You are going to your offices. Yeah. You're sitting amongst a team of the people that you're recruiting for. Yeah. If you're recruiting developers, that's where you're sitting. You're overhearing conversations that they're having. You're getting to understand what the culture is. You know what works and what doesn't work in that environment. You're understanding entirely where the business is going. What are the projections? Now, from that aspect, Nike might be a slightly gregarious example of to the point I'm trying to make, but
you're properly embedded into
like an RPO type setup,
but deeper than that, right? Because RPO tends to be just the name that's been people kind of dumped into their offices.
It's also a churn. It's also a process, right?
But you're talking about being deep involved in their company.
Yeah, it's knowing the business model, knowing. Getting to know the people that are doing the recruiting on a personal level as well, and understanding how they, what their expectations are. But I think it's really just making yourself as indispensable as possible. I mean, you can't, you can never guarantee that, but I think just feeling like you're part of, or making it so you feel like you're part of their business.
Yeah.
So you are working with them as opposed to for them. And we spoke to one of our members on a podcast, and he said, people need to stop having short-term relationships and build them for the long term. And he's just not seeing that in the industry at the moment. Everything's what can I do today to get a deal tomorrow, as opposed to what can I do today to keep that client on board. And I think that people, it's just maybe they feel like they're just. I haven't got the time to really do that. I need to see results today. But the longer term is you're going to continue getting their repeat business.
Yeah, adding value, right? Proper value.
It's adding proper value, and not just being there when they've got a job to work, but just feeding them back, industry news and just things that you would generally feed back. I think that they would appreciate knowing what's going on in your world as much as you would in theirs.
Yeah, I think. Sorry.
No, I was going to say market conditions will obviously be at play in some regard. And let's face it, as we're recording this now, the last 18 months haven't exactly been smooth sailing, right? So, and therein lies one of the values of being a contingency recruiter. If you're just picking up stuff and working in that way and you're happy to be flexible and you're not quite so rigid in your lane, but obviously virtues in that, then you can see why sometimes relationships go, well, do you know what, I'm going to pick that up later. And often not all have got the luxury of being able to say, do you know what, it doesn't matter that we're not doing as many sales as we are projecting or have projected. We're just going to continue building this relationship. And I think, COVID again has made people realise that they need to be needs to be
have a
adaptable.
long-term plan.
But anyway, the back to the point, which is underneath all of the surface of what's going on, there are new businesses coming in, and that is the first thing they're thinking of, those relationships, not somewhere down the line.
Yeah. So we talked about kind of, the things that people are asking.
Yeah.
But we're talking about new businesses coming through. And the tech and the way in which they're setting up those businesses, because I've definitely noticed that as well. When we have someone that's starting a business and they'll create something very different from what I would see as the old traditional way of, we'll buy a job board, we'll buy a CRM, we'll hire 10 consultants and away we go. They're building different. But so going back to that older company now, how do they need to move? And what do they need to do, bearing in mind that they've got quite a traditional setup? What advice would you give to those guys, other than pack it all in and start again, break it all up?
Well, let's okay. So take outside of any fixed cost stuff, right? Because apart from that's just boring, it's also obvious, right? So they sorted it out. They maybe haven't got any of those types of things now, but what they have got is left is the legacy people. Right, it's really what we're talking about, isn't it? Right, so they haven't got any clunky kit either. They've all got laptops, so that bit's sorted. So what you then have is the dichotomy of having X number of people that have been in the industry for quite a while and have built up their habits, right? Some of which will be cool, some of which won't be. How do they then grow? And this is part of the problem that we're seeing, is that you've got guys that have been in the industry for say 15 years, and they're trying to recruit. Most of them know that they need to recruit a different type of individual, and somebody with 3 jobs over 6 years of recruitment might not be the answer to that. There is no silver bullet anymore, if there ever was one, right? So they go, okay, let's take some rookies, some grads, some people who might not have the knowledge, but they've definitely got a skill set that we can implement and transfer into what we're doing. The biggest problem they've got now is that there's a massive difference between the culture, or what the values, more importantly, of what somebody's coming through versus the values of what has been built up over a period of time. Nothing wrong with those values particularly, maybe, right? But they're not aligned with the people they're trying to... So an adaptation around that. What is it that we need to do to build a business? Not what the values that we have had historically. What do we need now? Maybe that's a shift in change,
Maybe you need to unlearn what you've learned.
Unlearn what you learn. Yeah, absolutely that. And go out and see what else people are doing. And that's the biggest thing. The biggest thing is that they don't. So just keep going. So, like anything in life, how do you know what else anyone's doing if all you're doing is the same thing that you've always done, right? And you just don't. So, but sometimes that can be brave, Some business owners, leaders, if you want to call them that, are not brave enough to do that. We'll just keep going just keep doing what we're doing. And those people might want to go and play golf. They might want to go and retire to my bay and might want to do whatever, but they're not likely to do that if there's no succession plan.
Yeah.
And that is probably the biggest thing there. If you have not set your business up for people to come in and succeed what you're doing, you're just going to keep going and keep going and keep going. As many do, right? How many businesses get sold in recruitment, relatively speaking? That 40,000, not very many, right? Yeah. Not very many. And that's not because there's not an appetite particularly for it. It's because it's not been set up properly to do it. And then we come into the contract temp versus perm and the makeup of that. That's a different conversation altogether. But so those things. But again, it comes back to the learning, doesn't it? It comes back to that development, willingness to unlearn, maybe, to relearn.
Yeah. That's the thing. A lot of people are like, "Oh, well, what we've always done isn't working." It's not because what they're doing is wrong. It's because people have moved on, and they're adapting to the new world that is going to be recruitment. And whether people like it or not, people are going to have to want to change and be willing to change, or they are going to be left behind. And eventually they're going to it's going to be too late for them, basically. Yeah.
Like Blockbuster and Netflix, right? If they don't
exactly that, left it way too late. But we see it. We've got there's a lot of people in our network that have had recruitment agencies for years, but you see them very quickly adapt, and they're talking about, we bought this new bit of tech or new tool, whatever it may be, and it's excellent or it's rubbish or whatever it may be, but that's what we want to see more of, is people just being like Simon said, taking more risks.
But this all has to come down to the willingness and desire to do that.
Yeah.
Because as we said, there are some businesses that set up, and that's not what they want to do. They don't care about the tech. They don't care about the people coming out of university who are going to revolutionise the world. They just don't care about it. And because
and maybe they don't need to.
No, because they don't need to.
Exactly.
Exactly that. And which is absolutely fine. It's not about trying to tell thousands of recruiters to change the stuff they're doing, because it isn't that at all. Because it isn't that. But those that want to do the want and the desire to make the change is where we're at.
Yeah,
that's when they need to come and speak to you guys, and speak to the other people out there, and actually or
just walk out there.
Office store,
their house, or wherever it is they're working, just have a little look around, see what else is going on. That's whether or not that's with our network or another network or anything. I'm a massive advocate of going to events and listening to people who've got nothing to do with our sector. Like, you don't have to go to a TED talk, although lots of them are good. Just find something that you can transfer that is nothing to do with recruitment at all. Some of the stuff we run and with the speakers we have aren't from recruitment, never have been from recruitment, but the stories they got to tell and experience they can share are completely relevant if you're able to open your eyes and ears and think, hang on a minute, how could that be relevant? And then guess what? You're doing something somebody else isn't. And that's really important.
Because there's a story in all of those, and there's a meaning to all of those, isn't there? And ultimately, it's not about someone's not ever been in recruitment. If you're running a business, there are so many parallels, and even if people are not even running a business, you can still, if you listen hard enough, you can take advice from,
and I think as
the old lady down the park, whatever.
That's the thing, isn't it? It's you can take something from anyone's story as long as it's relevant to you, or that it's something that you can relate to. So lots of the talks, as Simon mentioned, you probably would remember from when you came to one of our events, but it's all mindset stuff. And I think that when you're talking about stuff that isn't directly related to your industry or business, it's it just sets people up mentally to want to take that next step that they might not have got from just listening someone talk about their industry. It could have been the same, along the same sort of lines, but delivered in a different way, not about recruitment. And then you can then sort of start to prepare yourself for wanting to
and you're outside of your business, so
exactly
you've then got that mental capacity to be able to just absorb the story and the moral of the story, and then trying to take it from there. I don't know how we're doing for time. Probably I'm always running over. These guys always get the hump. So just a couple more things that I want to just ask about is we are on the cusp of a new government. I don't think you need to have a crystal ball to kind of figure that out unless something changes. Where do you see the next? And you can have a stab at this because we don't really know.
I'm leaving the country. Is that answer the question?
Where's the next 6-12 months? The last 18 months have been pretty stale. Give us something to hang our hat on for the next 6 to 12
sort
months.
Of wise word soothsaying.
And then we can rewind it back and we can see how accurate inaccurate it was. But what do you think? What do you think is going to happen?
So I don't suppose we are the only people that have heard for the last 6 to 9 months that people are putting off decisions until they know the outcome of X, Y, Z, right? And it could be absolutely anything. Sociologically, it could be one of many different things, right? But the political standpoint and the general election coming as soon as it has probably been good, because there've been lots of cans being kicked down the road for quite a while now. And let's face it, if it weren't for this election happening now, and it would have been in October or November, it would have been even more cans being kicked down the road, right? So we can be thankful for that.
It's like ripping the plaster off.
Exactly that. Now, if the election was at the back end of the year, I would have said, well, come maybe the summer of 2025, things will be starting to pick up a little bit. But if you then think about the fact that summer holidays, all that stuff, generally speaking, that would have been Q4 2025 before the market started to churn as fast as people needed them to churn, right?
Yeah.
So thankfully, we've been brought forward 6 months. So my answer of when things are going to start really picking up is going to be the early part of 2025. But wheels will be in motion. The wheels will be oiled between now and then. Would be my prediction. There's always a fallout. The dust needs to settle from any big change, which is likely to be, as you say. And even if the political party doesn't change itself, there's still going to be changes, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And let's face it, the policies are probably all bollocks anyway. So what? I don't know what people vote,
exactly.
right? But that there's
it all gets forgotten about in a few days.
That
was in the manifesto.
We took that out.
No.
Yeah,
I never said that. Never said that. And if I did, I didn't mean it. But it's too late. But whatever the outcome of that is, the one thing that this industry has a habit of doing is talking themselves into and out of stuff, right?
Yeah,
so we can talk ourselves into an issue. We can talk ourselves into, not a recession particularly, but we can talk ourselves into a downturn. And it's the rhetoric that we all kind of spin and the narrative that suits the moment, right?
Yeah.
However, I also think we're very good at talking ourselves back out of it.
Yeah.
And that is what I think will happen. And I think that will be Q4 that the things start kind of moving a little bit, and then you got Christmas, a bit of downtime, the usual malaise in January.
Yeah.
And then it will kick off. So if that's true in relative terms, that's pretty quick.
Yeah.
That's a relatively speedy turnaround. And
I think most people would be quite happy with that prediction.
Well, let's hope there's nothing else skulking around the corner. Because for the last 6 years there has been there. Like every time you think you're past it, there's something else trying to grab you around the neck.
I think that's one of the key things for this year was, like, can we just have a year of calm and then no, it's going to be an election, isn't there?
So I hadn't paid I hadn't paid loads of attention to it until like more recently. I've had the voting card and out on my table for ages, and I just thought, I better do that. So what's that? Yeah, put that in the bin.
Yeah.
And then I saw that clown Boris Johnson appear on the TV. I thought we were done with.
He's come
Boris.
back.
He's come back. Yeah, to revive.
Dragged him back out of the. Come on.
Last minute, last stockings come.
I don't know, but whenever I see him, I just think of bad times, COVID and all that.
Wow. Without getting too political, that is the problem.
Yeah. He's got that stigma now, unfortunately, attached to him. But my prediction I get really is I think everyone seems to have a lot of optimism around what's gonna happen after. I think people just need to go into that and actually translate that optimism into actually doing stuff, because I think people have just put it off for too long. And even if and if it's not really what people want or that they thought it was going to be, what are we going to do? We're just going to continue as we are. No one can afford to do that. So I think I would like to see, and I think the optimism will translate into action. Yeah. And then we'll start to see the industry moving forward. Yeah. Because it can't get any worse.
Bear in mind, of course, that the recruitment agencies are at the behest of their clients, right? So there's only so much that can be done.
Generally about every the economy as a whole. Yeah. Yeah. We need to get ourselves, like Simon was saying, need to get ourselves out of it. But that comes down to what are we prepared to do as an economy. But I don't think anyone wants what we've had the last 18 months and more.
No, I don't think so. No. Well, so that's good. Some sunshine on the horizon.
Let's hope so, yeah.
And then just lastly, thanks very much, guys, for coming on. I want to kind of give you your plug for kind of RecConnect. Like, where can they find you? Why should they come and talk to you? And what will you give them when they come and find you? What will they get?
Okay. I thought we'd
in a couple of minutes.
Yeah, we've done quite a bit of plugging on this. So I think my answer is going to be, the answer to that is support and collaboration with peers, right? Yeah. So that's the succinct answer to why people would come to our network. But really, it's more of a imploring these people that feel like they need to join something anyway, or maybe they don't feel like they need to. Maybe someone's told them that they've got loads of benefits from doing it, and maybe they could also too. But it's just opening eyes and realising that there's always room for learning. And where leadership, and this is the core element of what we do is leadership. We spoke about that loads. It's the whole reason why we set it up in 2018. Yeah. Everything is about leadership experiences. And you just got to break silos, because this industry is full of them. And I dare say others are too. But this one has a real habit, I feel, having looked into different industries, of just not looking beyond the four walls. And I don't understand how people can call themselves leaders if they're not evolving themselves, right? And then moan about the fact that their attrition rates are so high.
Yeah.
Right, just look at yourself, look at your business and go, is it everything we want it to be? If it is, amazing. If it isn't, then there's support, collaboration, peers, and don't be frightened to put yourself out there and be transparent.
Perfect.
Yeah, probably couldn't put it any better than that. I mean, like Simon said, it's not just our network, but other networks. If you look at the people that they've got in their networks and the fountain of knowledge that you could instantly get access to, I just think that even if you just give it a go to join, explore, investigate, see what if it fits with what with you, your personality, your business. But yeah, there's lots of different ways that you can get benefit from the network, and it might not be immediate, but you 100% will get something out of it of value that will change your business at some point.
Perfect. Good. Super.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Is that it?
Thank you. Yeah.